There exists a society so secret that its own members refuse to speak about it, even decades after leaving college. A society that handpicks just 15 students a year and offers them something more powerful than money, status, or degrees: control of the future. Its headquarters has no windows, its real name is buried behind numbers, and its symbol is a skull, marked with the number 322. Its members have become presidents of the United States, CIA directors, Supreme Court justices, and Wall Street power brokers. But all of them swore loyalty to the same brotherhood. Skull and Bones. Some call it just a college fraternity. Others say it's the nerve center of the global elite. Today, we're not talking about theories. We're talking about facts, about patterns that repeat, too precisely to ignore. Because if you want to understand who runs the world, you must first meet those who don't need to be seen, because they already control everything. Stay until the end, because what you're about to discover might change the way you understand history, politics, and power. Let's begin. New Haven, Connecticut. The year is 1832. The American Revolution is long over, and the young republic is beginning to shape its institutions. But true power is no longer found on battlefields. It is cultivated in lecture halls, libraries, and secret chambers. Here at Yale University, two students, William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft, founded what would become one of the most controversial and secretive societies in modern history, the Order of Skull and Bones. Why the skull? Why the number 322? As with most things in Skull and Bones, the answer is shrouded in secrecy. Some say 322 refers to the death of Demosthenes, a Greek orator who stood against imperial tyranny. Others link it to a Bavarian secret order, possibly the remnants of the original Illuminati. What is clear is this: Skull and Bones was never meant to be a mere college fraternity. It was a grooming ground for the elite, a brotherhood for the ambitious, the brilliant, and the absolutely loyal. Russell had traveled to Germany and witnessed secret academic rituals firsthand. When he returned, he brought with him the blueprint for something more: a society of initiation, of hierarchy, of ancient symbols and hidden knowledge, something timeless and dangerous. The headquarters of Skull and Bones is known simply as the Tomb. It has no windows. It never opens to the public. No tours, no guests, no light. And yet, every year since 1832, it welcomes a new generation of members, 15 young men and women, chosen in secret. In the spring of each year, 15 Yale juniors are tapped, chosen behind closed doors. There's no public application, no campaign, only a quiet invitation that changes everything. From that moment on, their loyalty is no longer to Yale, it's to the order. Could all of this just be harmless college tradition? A theatrical ritual for bored rich kids playing secret club? Maybe. But then how do you explain what comes next? Presidents, senators, CIA directors, bankers, all drawn from those 15 chosen ones. Next, the dark rituals that bind them forever. The world knows almost nothing about what happens inside the tomb, but fragments have leaked out through whispers, testimonies, and forbidden research. What emerges is a picture that feels more like an ancient mystery cult than a college fraternity, and it begins with death. The initiation ceremony is said to begin with a symbolic death. The new member is placed inside a coffin as a sign that their old self is now gone. When they emerge, they are reborn, not as students, but as bonesmen. But before the rebirth comes the confession. Each initiate is required to stand before the group and reveal their deepest secrets: sexual history, childhood trauma, personal failures. Why? To remove shame, to ensure obedience, to bind them with what some call the most powerful weapon of control: exposure. Once accepted, the initiate swears oaths of secrecy and lifelong loyalty. They are taught that their allegiance is no longer to any country, ideology, or even family, but to the order itself. The phrase whispered among members, "Bones first, country second," and for many, that vow will shape the rest of their lives. Some researchers believe skull and bone ceremonies are modeled after mystery cults of the ancient world, from the rites of Mithras in Rome to Eleusinian death and rebirth rituals in Greece. Others see them as psychological programming, designed to erase individualism and forge loyalty through trauma bonding. Whatever their nature, they share one feature: they change the initiate forever. Inside the tomb, every object has meaning. Skulls line the walls. Candles illuminate cryptic paintings. There are statues of Eulogia, the Greek goddess of eloquence, and a grandfather clock permanently set to 8 o'clock, the hour when initiations begin. Members speak of inner rooms, known as the Room of Death, the Inner Temple, and corridors where the air is thick with centuries of whispered secrets. The symbol is not just for show. The skull represents mortality, the bones, eternal fraternity, and 322 is believed by some to mean second chapter, 32nd society in the Bavarian order lineage. Others argue it encodes something far more arcane. It is a language of symbols, invisible to most, but clear to those who were once buried and rose again. But these rituals are only the beginning. What truly sets Skull and Bones apart is what happens after graduation. The members don't go their separate ways. They rise together, into government, into finance, into war, all guided by a common code and a common silence. In Skull and Bones, the true initiation doesn't happen in the tomb. It happens after Yale, when the members step into the real world and suddenly begin to rise. From the moment they leave campus, Bonesmen are fast-tracked into positions of extraordinary influence. Law firms, investment banks, intelligence agencies, the White House. They don't just enter the system, they design it. 2 US presidents, George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush, were Bonesmen, and in 2004, both major presidential candidates, Bush and John Kerry, were members of the order. A coincidence, or proof that elections are just theater and true loyalty belongs not to voters, but to the brotherhood. George H.W. Bush didn't just become president, he was also director of the CIA, an organization often described as skull and bones for the government. Many senior CIA officials, State Department advisors, and Pentagon strategists either came from Bones or worked directly with its alumni. Bonesmen helped shape Cold War policy, oversee regime changes, and build the very architecture of US global dominance. Not in public view, but always close to the controls. In finance, the influence is just as deep. The Bush family had ties to Brown Brothers Harriman, one of the oldest private banks in America, where several partners were Bonesmen. From there, connections reached the Federal Reserve, World Bank, and IMF. It's not just about money, it's about control over monetary policy, debt, and economic pressure on entire nations. Bonesmen have also filled the ranks of America's legal and political elite: senators, ambassadors, attorneys general, advising presidents, shaping treaties, influencing wars, Often they gather in even more exclusive groups, CFR, Trilateral, Bilderberg, and when decisions that affect billions are made, bonesmen are rarely far from the table. This is not a conspiracy of constant contact. It's a network of mutual understanding, a shared language, a shared silence, a brotherhood that stretches across industries, ideologies, and generations. And so the question must be asked, is this just a powerful alumni club? Or is it something more organized, more hidden, more intentional? In the next act, we'll enter the shadows and explore the theories that say Skull and Bones is not just a society, but an engine of global control. What if the real levers of power aren't pulled in Congress, but in silence, across mahogany tables, behind soundproof doors, by men and women whose loyalty lies not with the public, but with each other? Some researchers, whistleblowers, and independent historians argue that Skull and Bones isn't just a symbol of elite privilege. It's the control panel of a shadow system that governs finance, foreign policy, and even public opinion. Several bonesmen have risen to become CEOs, media owners, and hedge fund titans. But their influence doesn't stop with business. It extends into what you see, what you hear, and what you believe. From newsrooms to Hollywood studios, the Order is said to have placed its alumni in key cultural touchpoints, shaping narratives, managing crises, and guiding public perception. Critics point to bonesmen in the White House and the Pentagon during major military interventions, from the Persian Gulf to Iraq, Afghanistan, and covert ops worldwide. Are these coincidences or pieces of a larger game? Many believe the Order supports a doctrine of perpetual conflict, where wars serve as tools of distraction, economic stimulation, and elite consolidation of power. In recent years, Skull and Bones-linked figures have invested heavily in behavioral science, data mining, and AI psychology tools. Some researchers claim this is no accident, but a modern extension of control through invisible manipulation. Control doesn't always look like tanks and guns. Sometimes it looks like algorithms, headlines, or the illusion of choice. The most extreme theory? That Skull and Bones is not just a network, but a secret governing body operating above national law. A globalist engine promoting a singular world order, one currency, one surveillance system, one elite ruling class bound by ancient oaths. Skeptics call it paranoia. But history shows us something uncomfortable. The more powerful a secret becomes, the less likely it is to be acknowledged by those within it. You may not believe in conspiracy theories, but ask yourself this: why do the same people appear over and over again at the top of politics, war, finance, and media? All linked by a symbol no one wants to explain. Not all power comes from politics or war. Some of it comes from culture, technology, and the minds that shape what we consume. In this new frontier, Skull and Bones has quietly adapted, moving beyond legacy institutions and into the engines of the future. For nearly 2 centuries, Skull and Bones has used elite academia as its incubator. Yale remains its spiritual and operational home, but the influence doesn't stop there. Through professors, donors, and trustees, the Order maintains influence over what's taught, who gets funding, and which ideas rise to prominence. It's not about education, it's about shaping the intellectual battlefield. Some bonesmen have gone into journalism, others into entertainment, but almost all maintain ties to platforms of mass communication, whether through ownership, funding, or silent influence. Control the narrative, and you control the perception of reality. In the 21st century, power resides not only in armies, but in algorithms. In recent years, Bones-affiliated figures have moved into Silicon Valley, cybersecurity firms, and predictive analytics. The game is no longer about controlling people directly, but about predicting their actions and pre-shaping their decisions. Welcome to the age of invisible governance. Bonesmen don't just retire into wealth, they recruit. Every year, 15 new Yale juniors are handpicked, not just for intelligence, but for malleability, ambition, and loyalty. And as the world changes, the order evolves, embedding itself in tech accelerators, NGOs, even humanitarian causes. After all, the best form of control is one that wears the mask of progress. They're not in the headlines, they're behind them. And when the next wave of leaders emerges from Wall Street, Silicon Valley, or the Capitol, it's worth asking whose values will they truly represent, the people's or the orders? We've traced its origins, seen its rituals, followed its members into the halls of power, and explored the theories that claim Skull and Bones is more than a secret society, that it's a shadow government shaping the modern world from behind a curtain of tradition and silence. But the truth is complex. Some documents are real, the people verifiable, the rituals leaked, filmed, and described by eyewitnesses. And yet, there is no smoking gun, no official admission, no exposed master plan, just patterns, parallels, silence. Maybe Skull and Bones isn't a puppet master. Maybe it's a microcosm, a symbolic reflection of how power really works. Silent deals, loyal networks, generational wealth. Not just a club, but a blueprint. The society's defenders say it's just tradition. But in a democratic society, why should those with the most influence swear lifelong oaths to something they can never speak about publicly? Secrecy breeds mistrust. And when secrecy becomes power, the people lose transparency. Whether Skull and Bones is orchestrating world events or simply reinforcing class hierarchy, its very existence poses a fundamental question. Who decides the future, the people or a chosen few? Perhaps the greatest conspiracy isn't Skull and Bones. Perhaps it's our belief that we are free from control, that our opinions are our own, that history unfolds naturally, rather than according to plans whispered behind locked doors. Skull and Bones exists. Their members are real. Their silence is absolute. But the story is far from over. If this video gave you a new perspective, subscribe to Esoteric Philosophy now, because what comes next will go even deeper. Drop your theories in the comments, and remember, they're always watching.